Now, speaking at COP29, the climate summit in Azerbaijan, the Prime Minister promised to cut emissions by 81% by 2035. Worth remembering that our emissions globally are about 1% of total emissions. Now, targets are one thing, how to achieve them, something else. This is where Bristol City Leap comes in. It's a project in partnership with the council. It's got an aim to transition the city to being carbon neutral by 2030, which, when you think about it, is 5 years away. James Sterling is from City Leap and he's live with me here in the studio. Good afternoon to you, James. Thanks for coming in.
John.
Now, we've spoken about City Leap and I wanted to have a longer conversation with you because this has been around, City Leap, 4 years. Marvin Rees, the former elected mayor of Bristol, used to talk about City Leap and what it was going to be transformative. It's going to, transform how we heat our homes in Bristol. Yet, a lot of people, James, don't know what it is, really, don't understand how it works, and don't understand how it's going to be as transformative as Mr. Rees has claimed. So let's just start with the absolute basics. I'm 5. How do you explain City Leap to me like a 5-year-old? So I get it.
Well, hi, John.
Hi.
Good to see you. Yeah, and I think that's fair. So just to be clear, we launched Bristol City Leap last January, January 2023. There was a lot of talk and a lot of build-up before that. But I understand, the sentiment. It's quite ethereal in its nature. It's very complicated. It's very, very large and it's a very long-term project. Now that we're into delivering Bristol City Leap, it's really easy for us to kind of identify what it is.
Because has a lot of the work been done so far then?
Lots and lots of work. So
this is where we've seen roads being dug up and everyone's going, what's that great big pipe going down there for?
There's a bit of that. Yeah. There's great strides have been made in terms of the energy efficiency that we're doing across domestic homes, so the private rented sector, but also really importantly, the 28,000 social housing blocks and houses across the city. So Bristol City Leap is about partnership. It's about large-scale decarbonisation. It's about tackling those very myriad issues around energy for a city in a way that's never been done before. So this is a very innovative, very different way of doing things.
Okay.
And, it requires a partnership with the local authority, with Bristol City Council and with Amoresco as a private sector organisation. And we've also got Vattenfall UK in looking at the kind of...
So you've got lots of people involved.
Yes.
Companies that people will never have heard of.
Yeah.
So I'm one of the 28,000 homes that are social housing in Bristol. Mm-hmm. What am I getting? When you say City Leap, what do I get? Or what's coming down the road for me? Or what am I getting right now?
So say you're a social housing resident or a tenant. What we're doing at the moment is delivering lots and lots of energy efficiency. So we're doing cavity insulation, cavity wall insulation, loft insulation, external wall insulation, underfloor insulation, new heat systems. So heat pumps are being delivered to homes across the city. Solar panels are being put onto roofs. You name it, new windows, new doors, anything that we can do to improve the fabric and improve the health and the comfort of those people's homes.
And that's not costing the resident anything?
Not costing the residents, no.
Right.
No, because they're tenants of Bristol City Council.
So where's the money coming from? Because we know that I had the leader of Bristol City Council, the council leader, Tony Dyer, on this programme only yesterday saying they've got a £51 million, almost £52 million black hole, and unless something changes, they're in deep doo-doo come April. So where's the money for this coming from?
So the funding streams vary depending on the type of project. So for the social housing side of things, that tends to either be a mix of grant funding from central government. Some of it is council funding, so pre-approved funding that the council has got in terms of its repairs and maintenance and the things that they need to do to improve existing housing
stock. So that could be wrapped up in what would be the maintenance budget, the capital maintenance budget for the council.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think they call it their housing revenue accounts. For other types of projects, so large-scale renewables, we're building wind turbines, we're building solar farms out and around the city. Those tend to be private finance, so they'll come from third-party finance. They can come from our company, Amoresco. They can come from, in terms of the heat network, it will come from Vattenfall, who are the heat network partners. So they'll bring that investment into the city. And it really does vary. So, yeah, real mix. We've got some crowdfunding projects as well to allow individual, ordinary residents to, contribute to sort of funding projects and obviously get, some rate of return on those as well.
But that's the point, isn't it? Because Amoresco is a business.
Yeah.
So you put in £1, I'm guessing you want £1 plus 1% back as what they call an ROI, return on investment. So this is profitable. It has to be, does it not, for Amoresco and others? Otherwise, why would you be doing it?
Yeah.
I'm not criticising, I'm just getting to the bottom line.
That's the way the world works.
Yes, it is the way the world works.
No, absolutely. I mean, there's a balance to be had. So for large infrastructure projects, you build a wind turbine. There's a payback. It's quite an expensive project to do. But every time that turbine spins and generates electricity, which is then sold to the grid or sold to a private institution, there is a rate of return that comes from that. And once that's paid back, profitable, as you say. For things like domestic energy efficiency, there's not really a profit to be had on that. So there's a balance to be had in terms of...
But that's also...
There's a social profit that comes from that in terms of
course
social
there is,
benefit.
but that's also from the point of view of energy efficiency. Also means that when you supply the energy, which is what City Leap is about ultimately, isn't it? Supplying energy?
We're not a supplier.
Right.
Just to be really clear.
Provider?
So we're an energy services company, so we build things.
Okay.
We build infrastructure. That infrastructure could be owned by us, in which case that energy is sold to the grid,
right?
Just in a way that any other homeowner who's got a solar panel on their roof will sell that energy to the grid. We're not a supplier in that we're not like a British Gas or
you're not like an OVO or
right.
So just so I'm clear, stage 1 is making homes as energy efficient as they can be. Stage 2 of City Leap is providing heating and energy, isn't it?
It's kind of all done at the same time. So there's not a staged kind of process. We have to look at this in a holistic way.
Right.
So we look at city scale decarbonisation in the round. So whilst we're doing, improving the energy efficiency of someone's home, can we improve their heating system? Whilst we're doing that, can we deliver an electric vehicle charge point for their road or for their neighbourhood? Whilst we're doing that, can we also look at, actually there's a community group that's very active in that area. Can we provide them some funding to do some behavioural change, some energy, kind of advice services or something like that? Can they do something to a local community centre? So we have to look at the whole project. And Bristol City Leap, yes, focus on decarbonisation, that's our primary, but we also have a huge focus on social value. And that's
so it's about improving people's lives. There is a business return on this, but there's also a social and an environmental return as well. Yeah. So what do you get out of it? What does your company get out of it then? I mean, you go around making everybody's homes energy efficient. Do you sort of go, our work here is done and move on? Surely this has to be paid for. And you say grants, which are money you're given, don't have to pay it back, loans, and a commercial imperative. What do you guys get out of it?
Well, we are essentially the primary partner for the city in terms of decarbonisation work. So the projects that are delivered, we work on those projects. So we're paid for our time to work on those projects, be it working for the local authority or working for the private sector, the commercial industrial organisations out there who are also looking to decarbonise. So there's we're paid for that time. We're also, obviously very, very keen on the model of Bristol City Leap. This is a first. It's been called a world first. People were talking about it at COP. People were talking about it at World Economic Forum.
Marvin Rees and I spoke about this when COP was in Glasgow.
That's right.
That's when he really sort of fleshed out the bones of what City Leap could be, which is about energy efficiency and reducing the amount of carbon that the city produces to make it carbon neutral, in inverted commas. And I don't want to get bogged down in how one actually measures that, because that's going to take years to talk about. But that's the objective. I had in my head that this was also about communal heating of homes.
Yes, that too. Yeah.
Right. So, but that's not what you're doing.
So that is part of Bristol City Leap. Yep. So the heat network, or the district heating system for the city, which is now award-winning. We've won 3 or 4 awards, I think, and more. That is a huge part of it as well. So that's looking at kind of new developments. If there's a new I don't know, housing block, or if there's a new office block or something like that, can we connect that to a low carbon form of heating? And what we've got in the city, which is really exciting, John, is the England's largest water source heat pump. So an entirely renewable source of heat, right on in the centre, which is in Castle Park, and that generates low carbon heating, which is then pumped into the various kind of developments, new housing blocks, as I say, or offices.
So where that heat is generated in Castle Park, massive, great big thing there. Yeah. How far does it go?
So at the moment it stretches to Old Market and I guess the kind of Redcliffe area as well. Okay. So that kind of that
quite
section
a distance
of the heat network. Yeah.
But I'm guessing, obviously, the further you go, the less efficient it could be, because obviously heat. I'm no physicist, didn't even get my O level, but the further you go, the less heat there will be.
There is an efficiency there, yeah, definitely. I mean, these are very, very special kind of insulated pipes, so the drop-off is pretty negligible. But yeah, definitely you want to keep those kind of heat sources local to where they're providing,
because that's the most efficient way. And of course the insulation, as anybody who's I've looked into heat pumps myself, for my mum and for me, that obviously one has to effectively turn, and this is the biggest problem we have with our housing stock in the UK. A lot of it is Victorian, Edwardian, 20s and 30s, cavity walls and all that sort of stuff. You have to turn your house into Tupperware to make certain that it effectively, because you don't need, get your nan in, sit her in a room, she'll find the draft for you. You've then got to seal that draft, because otherwise it won't work. You'll have a cold home.
It's actually a very good system of finding drafts, actually.
Get your nan in,
in my experience. Yeah.
Always get your nan in. She'll find the draft for you.
No, absolutely right. Yes, you can't just improve the heating system for a home or for a building without doing those other kind of fabric measures as well. It's really important those two go hand in hand. Otherwise
So, James, is City Leap only for social housing and for council houses, effectively, or will it ultimately, somebody in Bedminster, somebody who lives in Redcliffe, somebody who lives in Old Market, maybe if you start going up Church Road into Barton Hill, into St George, Windmill Hill, will they be able to tap into this ultimately?
Absolutely, yeah. So
that's the objective.
So Bristol City Leap is a 20-year project, 20-year partnership. It's about decarbonising the city, so we have to start in those areas where there's high demand for heat, but also we've got schemes that are running now for private residences, and we've delivered 300 homes with energy efficiency across the city who are not social housing. They're private rented sector clients. We're also delivering EV charge points across the city now, which is really exciting.
What about homeowners? If I owned if I had a mortgage or I own my own home, so you could help as well.
We've done 300 homeowners.
So owner-occupiers, not just those in the rented sector.
That's right.
So not just landlords, but actual homeowners who've got the deeds of the house, as it were.
Yeah. There's been a larger focus on that, to be fair. So it's quite difficult sometimes to engage with landlords. We have, some success there. But our focus has been on criteria based, but based on working with homeowners essentially.
What about the costs? Because obviously the energy market for the last 3 or 4 years hasn't actually been very competitive, because the price of energy has not been competitive. We've noticed now that there is competition in the market. We have obviously this quarterly review of the price cap, which is about the price of unit of energy. It's not the cap on what you pay. You use less, you pay less. You use more, you pay more. How competitive is your heating compared to that?
So from the heat network, for example, it is competitive. It's fairly priced, I think, is what we'd say. So we've got...
It's not cheaper.
It depends on the heating system you've had previously.
Okay.
So it can be. If you've got a gas boiler, it'll be different from if you've got an electric, night storage heater previously. So it will vary.
I mean, gas is the most common form of heating in Bristol as a type of heating.
You'd be surprised at the amount of properties that are off gas.
Okay.
Yeah, coal-fired, oil-fired. Yeah, very, very.
So what would that be comparison? Systems. Just to take the gas heating, if you're paying £150 a month in winter to heat your home on gas, would that be comparable to what you would get from City Leap?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, but there's also other things to consider as well. So if you're a building owner, you own a block of flats or whatever, apartments, you don't have those individual boilers within each apartment.
So you've got scale.
So there's no maintenance cost needs to be done. Every boiler needs to be maintained or serviced annually. You've got that kind of centralised system, which is really, really useful.
Okay.
It's also really reliable. So we have, commitments around heat reliability and ensuring that if the heat goes off, it gets put on really, really quickly.
Okay.
And not just in the winter months, but, hot water and everything else. So we've got, kind of firm commitments around that. And, there is regulation coming in around heat networks, which is fantastic. But in the meantime, we use sort of heat trust, which is a kind of pseudo regulation.
So it's innovative. Private owners and social housing are obviously able to benefit from this. And you say it's a 20-year project, this then. If someone listening this afternoon wants to take advantage of this, how? How do they do it? Where do they go?
Well, I was hoping you'd ask that.
Well, because it's an obvious question, but that's one of the reasons I wanted to get you in here, because this is a council-led thing, this is a government-supported thing. We've got to the bottom that there is also a profit imperative within here as well, which I appreciate your honesty. And at the end of the day, if we can all do our bit, then we are, pushing towards the objective of carbon neutrality, which is, I think most people listening would go, I want to do my bit on that. So how? Tell.
So, I mean, there's lots of information on our website on bristolcityleap.co.uk.
Yep.
So that covers the offers available to homeowners. So we've got a Bright Green Home Scheme, for example, which is about free measures for homes. You can access that. There's some criteria. We're also, at the moment, rolling out lots and lots of grant funding and loan funding to community organisations. So we have a £1.5 million community energy fund, which is live. We've just finished our second round of funding, and we've delivered, I think the second round was £300,000 worth of grants to community organisations across the city, so faith groups, charities, social enterprises, to do their own energy projects. And we want to enable communities to be able to play their part, not to put the burden on those communities, but to support and enable them to do the right things and to be able to also support their own business models, cut their own energy bills and make sure that they're able to provide the best services to the local people. So I would say the website is the best place to start. We've got some free energy tips on there, which people can access, just no-cost things. We've also got a partnership with the Centre for Sustainable Energy, which we talked about last time, actually.
Indeed, we did, yes.
Which is a free phone helpline number.
Yeah.
So people can phone that if they're having difficulty paying their bills, if they need advice on home energy efficiency, that sort of thing. I would encourage anyone to access that because it's a fantastic service, and it's going to be even more popular, I think, in the coming months.
It's going to get cold next week. I think that's going to put into sharp relief, because obviously people will be looking at winter fuel allowances and everything else, be looking at turning on that heating and whether they should or could afford to do so. So put Bristol City Leap into a search engine of your choice. You'll find out more about what James and I have been speaking about. James Sterling, thank you very much for coming in. Good to talk to you. Thank you.